Welcome everybody, we're here in Shanghai and Lewis Hamilton is on pole and alongside him Max Verstappen on the front row. The two drivers that have shared between them the last 8 World Championships have locked horns as they did at the first ever sprint at Silverstone in 2021 to share the front row today. This could be an absolute humdinger. Whether it was Santiago or San Diego, Lewis Hamilton stayed faster yesterday. What can he do over 19 laps of the sprint today around this 3.38 mile circuit? Top speed down the back straight with an extra 75 metres of DRS, 215 miles an hour, 16 corners to punish the tyres, 7 to the left and 9 to the right, and once again it is a glorious day here in Shanghai. Air temperature 23 degrees for a venue that has never hosted a World Championship Grand Prix weekend in March before. We're well above the average temperature, and this is the grid. Nico Hülkenberg will start from the pit lane. They've changed his suspension. Liam Lawson will start 19th for Red Bull. Then comes Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly. Alpine qualifying 16th with Jack Doohan and 17th with Gasly, just as they did for the sprint in Shanghai last year. Isaac Paget has his first ever race start in Formula One, and he starts 15th. Ahead of him, Gabriel Bortoleto, who out-qualified Nico Hülkenberg for the second weekend running, and Carlos Sainz outside the top 10 in the sprint for the first time. Ollie Behrman, young teenager, shares the row with Fernando Alonso, most experienced man on the grid. And then Lance Stroll in 10th, who out-qualified Alonso for the fourth time in the last 7 sprints. Alex Albon is 9th for Williams, and Yuki Tsunoda 8th for Racing Bulls, higher than he qualified in the sprints last year. It's 7th on the grid for Kimi Antonelli, only 6th for Lando Norris, where he finished the sprint in Shanghai last year from pole. 5th place goes to George Russell. Charles Leclerc in 4th, no one wants that grid spot, no one's ever won from there here in Shanghai. Oscar Piastri starts 3rd, and the front row, Max Verstappen alongside Lewis Hamilton for the 15th time in Formula One. They share a front row, and if that isn't exciting enough to get everyone out of bed back home in the UK, Martin Brundle, I don't know what is.
Absolutely agree, and I'm absolutely sure too that the sprint races will be energised even more this year, because it's clear it's going to be a very tight World Championship between the top 4 teams and their drivers, and they know that they can't afford to leave points on the table even in a sprint race. Sometimes it seems like being a little bit cautious because the big day was the following day for the points, but they're all really going to matter this year. There's something brilliant, slightly ominous about Verstappen and Hamilton, isn't there, side by side?
275 metres from pole position to your first braking point as you head around that long turn 1. Who knows what's going to happen there? Who knows what's going to happen to the tyres here for this sprint race? It's a punishing track for the tyres at the best of times, and in these temperatures even more punishing,
especially with the new surface as well. Very smooth, very grippy. We're seeing lap record times, and there are a couple of corners there, turn 7 and turn 13, that are very long and huge amount of energy and forces going through the tyres because of the speed they're carrying, the downforce they're carrying on these ground effect cars, and that's why tyre pressures overnight, the minimum tyre pressures have gone up 1 psi front and rear, which is a lot in Formula One. And remember, the cars are in park firm, you can't change them to accommodate that, but it's just about supporting the tyre with such immense loads going through them and the car, and of course the drivers.
Now this time last year, George Russell started on the soft tyre. He was 11th on the grid, made up 3 places during the course of the sprint, and by running those softs, nobody is running the softs here today. It is medium tyres for the entire field.
And I'm going to imagine a lot of those will be used medium tyres as well, because if you can give them a heat cycle, you condition the, not really rubber, but let's call it the compound, and also you take a little bit of tread depth out of it, which also helps against overheating.
We talked about the front row, Oscar Piastri, Charles Leclerc, George Russell, Lando Norris. They'll all fancy their chances for this. Did McLaren rather blow it in qualifying yesterday? Should they have got the front row?
It should, but it's so close. And, you know, one little error and somebody else will, you know, where the stuff that he put up earlier on, I mean, the top 4 were covered by less than a tenth of a second on their ideal times. And you've got 3 barrels all up at the same time with your 3 separate times. But it just shows you need a perfect lap now to ace it. Otherwise, somebody will snap your grid position away from you.
Yeah, McLaren went out for 2 runs in the final part of qualifying, and they thought that was the best way. But Hamilton and Verstappen just the 1 run, making the best of the new tyres when the track was at its most grippiest at the end. And Hamilton setting that new lap record here in Shanghai, which was tied, by the way, for the lap record as being the longest standing lap record on the calendar with Monza. Let's go back to 2018 when Sebastian Vettel set that lap record. And here goes a little bit quiet. There's a hush now descending over this circuit and the vast grandstands as Lewis Hamilton, for the first time in his career, pulls a Ferrari onto the pole position. His first ever pole position for his new team, his second ever pole position in a sprint race, and you have to go back to that race in Silverstone, the first sprint we had for the only other time he started on pole.
The outside of the track, the left-hand side of the track for a right-hander. Yes, you can sweep into that right-hander from that position, but not if somebody is on the inside of you. And Verstappen with a 20-degree turn on his car, pointing towards Lewis Hamilton. His intentions are very clearly.
Yeah, to try and cut Lewis off as best he can, and it was Verstappen who made the best start in Melbourne just 6 days ago.
And it's also to stop others bombing through between them.
We're in car number 63, George Russell. Great podium for him in the first race in Australia. What can he do from 5th on the grid? He's never finished in the top 5 in any format when he's been racing here in Shanghai. And Liam Lawson is the last car to pull into his grid spot. Nico Hulkenberg will start from the pit lane. Red Bull on the back row and on the front row as well. We have 19 laps coming your way. There's the man with the green flag. We're all set for the sprint here in Shanghai. It's lights out and away we go. Hamilton with a better reaction time, and already Piastri is coming at Verstappen. Verstappen's coming at Lewis Hamilton, who leads into the first turn. On the inside, Charles Leclerc just gets a bit compromised by Piastri, and going around the outside, that's George Russell with Lando Norris for company. But Hamilton leads, as he did in the early stages of the sprint last year here in Shanghai, and it's Max Verstappen right behind him.
And Norris tried to get around the outside of George Russell. It did not work. So they're pretty much in grid order as they head down towards turn 6. And that's Norris getting well out of shape on the outside. The championship leader losing 2 places.
Yeah, he lost 6 places at the start last year, and he's lost 2 places here. That was a bad lock up there for Lando Norris. Hamilton leads from Verstappen and Piastri. Then comes Charles Leclerc, and George Russell making up places with that lock up. And down the inside on Lando Norris. Tries Fernando Alonso, nothing to it, into turn 10.
This is the trouble when you fall back into the pack for Norris at the moment. You're out of sync with anybody around you, and he's been under pressure.
Not the start Lando Norris was looking for, not the start at all. And he's got it all to do from there to score some precious championship points. Hamilton easing away a little bit from Max Verstappen, who is massively eased away from Oscar Piastri. Then comes Leclerc, then Russell, and then comes the racing bulls of Yuki Tsunoda. Norris having a little look on the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll, can't get quite past him into the hairpin, but Russell is through, and George Russell up in the 4th place. Not a good start from him. Charles Leclerc has dropped down the place as we end the first of 19 laps here. It's Hamilton out in front by 7/10 of a second.
Crucially, he's got to get it to over a second, hasn't he? Otherwise, he'll have Max Verstappen in the DRS zone behind him.
On board now with Charles Leclerc, who was overtaken by George Russell. Russell just looking a little bit squirrely coming out of turn 3, and Leclerc might have all the encouragement he wants there to try and make a run. These two ahead of Yuki Tsunoda, and Kimi Antonelli currently in 7th place.
Yeah, so the DRS is enabled, and this means that if Verstappen has lost a 10th to Hamilton in the first sector, Hamilton trying desperately to drive away at the front, because behind Verstappen, Piastri out of DRS, Russell out of DRS on Piastri as well. They won't get the rear wing open down the mighty back straight.
Lando Norris says he's not thinking about the championship at this very early stage in the season. He leads the championship, but after this sprint, Max Verstappen could, in theory, be leading that championship, and he's got a very good chance of doing that with Norris currently in 9th and not scoring points. Remember, it's points all the way down to 8th place for a sprint, but let's see what he can do down the back straight. He can get some overtaking done, and they're all screaming towards 210 miles an hour. Hamilton out in front, nicely into the braking zone. He's trying to make a move. Nobody has the DRS advantage to get close enough, but here's a little battle. Carlos Sainz and Pierre Gasly. Williams against Alpine. Sainz ahead of the Frenchman going into that hairpin.
Yeah, it's been a decent start. Hamilton, new fastest lap of the race already. 1.1 seconds clear. That's the Lewis Hamilton we remember, isn't it?
Yeah.
Leading for Mercedes. Wow. And he's done enough there to break the DRS to Verstappen. Critical.
Six-time pole sitter here in the Grand Prix format. Six-time race winner, and Shanghai is somewhat energised, it seems, Lewis Hamilton, after the disappointments in the race down in Australia in a weekend that he said he was having the best time of his life. He probably was until the lights went out in that particular race. And these two already making a move ahead of Oscar Piastri. He was about 0.3 of a second slower than Verstappen on the last lap. Great reaction time from Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, Lewis locked the rear wheel, spun up a bit as he went into, moved up through the gears, but still got away really well. The leaders then were neatly tidy through. Antonelli and Stroll very nearly got together in the midfield, but saved it. And it's a little bit further. So this is where Norris, you can see in the second of the McLaren, trying to go around the outside of George Russell. And we're about to see what happened to Norris. So, yeah, he got right on the... He didn't lock up as much as, like, tyres on the dirt. And that is what cost Norris. There's 2 places down there. We're going to see it again now. He didn't need to be out there. Lando did not need to be out there. Nobody was pushing him out there.
Not at all, but George Russell said thank you very much. Victor on the inside, as did Yuki Tsunoda. And here comes George Russell into the hairpin. That's his move on Leclerc.
Yeah, that was a great overtake.
He's certainly enjoying himself out there. The gap out in front now down to 0.9 of a second as the cars cross the line, and that means that brings Verstappen back into potential DRS range.
Absolutely. So they might yo-yo around a bit as they're using their battery power aggressively, or then you've got to charge them back up again. So keep an eye on that. But at the moment, you're right, Verstappen staying in the DRS zone.
Yeah, Hamilton's had to just push a little bit harder in the first sector on this latest lap as we watch Ollie Behrman down in 12 places. Second sprint, he took part, of course, in the wets and the damp in Sao Paulo in 2024. Liam Lawson right at the back with Jack Doohan just ahead of him, and Esteban Ocon in the other half, currently 17th. Isaac Hadji in his first Formula One race, because he didn't take part in the race, if you remember, in Australia, currently settled in 16th place.
I kind of expected the McLaren of Norris to stroll past Stroll's Aston Martin, but he's not. He's stuck up there in 9th place, not making any... in fact, it looks like he's falling off the Aston bit in the far distance there.
Yeah, Aston Martin running 2 different rear wings as a journey flap to put a bit more downforce on Fernando Alonso's. Lance Stroll having a bit more top-end speed, and that could be one of the reasons that Norris is struggling to get past. But this could be a bit of a slow burner until the tyres start screaming for mercy round about lap 12 or so.
Yeah, what if it's a weak mate? I never saw a lap last week in Melbourne. They clearly did not have the car dialed or anything. I never saw a lap that looked like Lewis Hamilton or Ferrari, or Lewis Hamilton in a Ferrari last week. And this week they turned up here and it just looked like a completely different show.
Absolutely. Now, what is interesting at this moment in time is that car there, that papaya McLaren of Oscar Piastri. He slowly but surely is starting to reel in Max Verstappen. People watch on that, as we now keep a watch on Liam Lawson into the hairpin. Is that last of the late-breaking Lawson style? Might well be, you know, as he bangs wheels with the Alpine of Jack Doohan and gets past.
Yeah, a bit of a braille overtake there, wasn't it? But Doohan was pushed off the racetrack. The race director might well be having a look at that. That took the car off the ground. Yeah, that was more of a mugging than an overtake, but he's got the position.
Yeah, he's so close to Doohan. I don't know if he's trying to overtake it or wear his car, quite frankly. But the thing is, Lawson didn't go off the track. It has been noted for causing a collision. He didn't go off the track, so he wasn't leaving the track and gaining an advantage as such. But keep a watch on this as there goes Isaac Hadja and Gabriel Bortoletto, the two that raced against each other and fought out for the title in F2 last year. They're banging wheels going into the hairpin in Formula 1 as Bortoletto stays just ahead, and Piastri is now within DRS range of Max Verstappen. He's gaining steadily but surely on the Red Bull in front.
And we do know that the McLaren is very good on longer runs at looking after its tyres, and that's going to be key all through this event.
So Hamilton leads 1.3 seconds or so ahead of Verstappen. He led the first 8 laps of the sprint last year before Verstappen passed him en route to victory. Going very wide there is the Haas of Esteban Ocon. Verstappen has now got Piastri for much closer company. We're on board with Kimi Antonelli, who's well within DRS range of the Racing Bull. Ahead of him, that is Yuki Tsunoda.
What's going on with Lando? He's changing around there in 9th. He's dropping away a little bit from Lance Stroll, if anything. Ted, what do you know down there?
Hi Martin, hi Coffee. Yeah, just looking up and down the pit lane, lots of discussions on the McLaren pit wall. It's all about looking after that front left tyre at the moment for Lando Norris. He after a bad opening phase, great opening phase for Yuki Tsunoda, by the way, up 2, but Tsunoda's starting to hold up that Antonelli, Stroll and Norris. And Norris just in the dirty air of Stroll, not able to make any impact while he's starting to look after that front left. But yeah, up ahead, Max Verstappen just being dropped even more now by Lewis Hamilton. Still the name of the game for the Ferrari, though, up front. Protect that front left, make sure there's life in it towards the end of the sprint race.
What's interesting, Verstappen in the middle part of the lap is finding a little bit more pace to Piastri. So the Red Bull of Liam Lawson is making gains once again. This time it's Esteban Ocon in the Haas and Lawson up to 17th place. Yeah, Piastri is lightning down the main straight where we are now, but through the middle sector, Verstappen was just keeping a couple of tenths ahead. But I do wonder if that McLaren is starting to find its grip, find the right working temperature for those tyres, and the deficit is now under 7/10 of a second.
Yeah, of course the sprints are shorter, but we're not halfway through this one yet, so no further action for that Lawson doing contact down at the hairpin. The stewards or the race director happy with that.
Loving this Bortoletto Hadja battle. Almost on the extremities of the track there is Isaac Hadja. Bortoletto just staying ahead. Hadja's got the inside line. Bortoletto is going to keep fighting that one and manages to hold on to that 15th place as Lawson now joins in with the battle on that particular front. Piastri, you can see Verstappen just ahead of him, or gets an advantage with DRS down that back straight. Verstappen, though, has DRS on Lewis Hamilton, and that is vital for him to protect that second place, and a second place that will take him, if Lando Norris doesn't score, to level on points with Norris in that championship battle. On board now with the Red Bull in second place of Max Verstappen, and he's gaining on Hamilton, so is Hamilton starting to suffer a little bit of the tyre wear?
Ready?
So visually, yours do look slightly worse than people.
But then I need some help, don't I? Because I'm just driving so slow and pulling the tyre.
Normally in the Grand Prix, we say just back off and help protect it. You can't do that in a sprint. Look at this, Martin. Top 3 separated by 1.5 seconds when they cross the line.
Yeah, and we've got 4 different chassis in the top 4. That's going to be the story of what I know is going to be an epic season of Formula 1 racing. As it ebbs and flows through the different circuit layouts and temperatures and challenges that are facing us. That's worrying them. We were wondering why Lando is falling away from the Aston Martin. He's damaged his front left already. Front left trailing, it's a clockwise circuit. There are a lot of fast right-handers, and that is where you punish. I think you rip the surface of the tyre, you can drive through it, you can recover what's underneath the graining, like, as Ted always describes it, like the end of like a pencil eraser, breaking away, and that is what they're saying. You can see the marks on the towards the inside. There it is, that darker patch on towards the inside of Lewis's front left, and he's really grained up and beginning to struggle.
Yeah, it looks like a dimple, doesn't it, on the inside of the tyre. Piastri lost a heap of time in the middle sector to Max Verstappen. That's why he's dropped out of DRS range. I also wonder, is he dropping back to protect his tyres a little bit, see how this squabble goes, and then make a charge in a few laps' time?
Yeah, Lewis really struggling with the front of that Ferrari now. Max is smelling Ferrari blood there, isn't he? And Lewis needs to keep him behind somehow, such that he's damaging Max's tyres in the turbulent air coming off the back of that Ferrari.
Kimi Antonelli is right on the tail of Yuki Tsunoda. We're on lap 9 of 19 here in the 2025 Shanghai Sprint, which is almost a carbon copy, albeit in sunshine rather than showers, of the sprint from 2024. It was lap 9 where Max Verstappen passed Lewis Hamilton and went on to take the lead in 2024. We're on lap 9 now, and that Red Bull is getting ever closer as we go to Sky Race Control.
Play with lines,
Bernie
but
Collins,
just
on
don't let that
2 seconds.
result in a net increase in slip.
So don't let the car start oversteering anything. Don't scrub the car across the road. You will damage, you'll pop the tyres into a zone you don't want to be in.
And Hamilton, I think, has got more than a second ahead at the detection point. So Verstappen hasn't got DRS on this lap. Bernie, to you.
Yeah, so just as you and Martin have picked up on there, it's all about tyre management in this. Lots of discussion across a lot of videos about the temperature that the tyres are operating at. Some teams have been told that these 3 laps is crucial. This is the peak temperature these tyres will see. It's a bit of lifting coast through this section, and then hopefully we set the pressure a little bit more later on as the rubber wears down gradually on that tyre and it begins to become more manageable.
Can you hear the cheers as we go on board here with a wonderful battle? Carlos Sainz, Isaac Hadjar and Pierre Gasly. And Isaac Hadjar is ahead of Gasly, so he's fought off Gabriel Bortoleto. He's got ahead of him, and now he's got ahead of the Alpine. But something just broke off the car there, and I wonder if that's a bit of front wing end plate as Hadjar was moving around down the straight, and he's been passed once again by Pierre Gasly, with Bortoleto now getting interested, and Lawson as well.
Lawson doing exactly what he needs to do in this race, and now it's just show he can move forward. He's out of position on the grid with a potential pace of the car. The other one's up in second place, but this is exactly what Liam Lawson needs to be doing.
But he needs to be doing it for Red Bull a lot further up the grid. That will come in time, I'm sure.
I think today, really, but yes, you're absolutely right.
Kimi Antonelli leading the battle of the rookies, but he's stuck still behind Yuki Tsunoda in 7th place. Let's just have a little look at Liam Lawson's escapade once again into the hairpin. Bortoleto with the car on the left-hand side, and that's rubbing against the side pod this time for Liam Lawson.
It's a high risk on that, coming from so far behind. But,
and that was a bit of Liam Lawson's car.
It was Red Bull, wasn't it?
Yes,
it's a Red Bull. Presumably from a contact down at the hairpin. Can't see anything. Yeah, it's the wrong one.
Here comes Piastri Part 2 on Max Verstappen. He's got DRS. He's now half a second behind the Red Bull. Hamilton, maybe he's got through that graining phase and he's looking a little bit stronger, but he's pulled away from Verstappen, who's starting to struggle again.
Verstappen suddenly got close to Hamilton. You're talking about all the things you can never see unless it's raining. And it looks like it might have just tipped the tyres over on the Red Bull as well. He actually was 2.2 off the lead a while ago. He's now 1.8 off the lead. Don't count him out for a victory yet.
Still plenty of time as Verstappen goes very wide at the hairpin, trying to slow the car down. Just for one moment, Oscar Piastri thought a gap was emerging, but he backed off, and he's going to get DRS down that back straight. And he's got enough top-line speed, that could be an overtake into the hairpin.
Yeah, his front tyre on Piastri's McLaren looks a little bit ugly, doesn't it? It doesn't look much happier than anybody else's, but what he's spotting there, and both Max's front tyres are badly grained now.
So, back just to Pierre Gasly for a moment. We saw this while we were riding on board. Carlos Sainz in the Williams has Gasly coming right at him, and then Isaac Hadjar is in the midst of battle too. And that's a scrap for 13th place. That's where Gasly is. Sainz currently down in 14th. The Sainz now got ahead. He stayed ahead of Isaac Hadjar. That's Sainz and the Williams there. There is a massive trade. Sainz is holding them all up as Piastri makes his way down the main straights out of the final corner, turn 16, and behind Verstappen again. It's still that half a second gap. Here comes the Racing Bulls on Carlos Sainz, who's really struggling out there in the Williams. And that's a fairly simple overtake for Isaac Hadger, and Liam Lawson might make it 2 moves that is made on Carlos Sainz in the wrong corner. He does, picks up the pieces and moves ahead as Carlos Sainz is told to pit, and I would imagine retire from the sprint.
Yeah, he was slow and sloping down the straight for some reason, Carlos Sainz. So whether he's got the beginning of some gremlins there, or they're going to just throw some tyres at it, it's kind of a point really, isn't it?
Unless you get a safety car that bunches everyone up, you're absolutely right. But so far, it's kept pretty clean, bit of banging wheels, but not too badly. We're back on board with Oscar Piastri. They have traded his set of wheels, another set of mediums. Go on to the Williams, and Sainz is back into the race again. It's good pit stop practice, 2.4 seconds for the Williams team. So, has Piastri got the straight line speed, even with DRS, to get close to Verstappen, who seems to be coming off that banked turn at turn 13, that little bit better, and putting a bit of distance between himself and Piastri. But Piastri can't quite claw back enough to get level or ahead into this hairpin.
To be honest, all three of them, the tyres look horrible now. And imagine this in the Grand Prix tomorrow when he's carrying a lot more fuel as well.
How can we help? Do you have any pace? No. I'm flat out.
That's a worry for Lando Norris, it really is. But once again, Piastri down the main straight, comes off that final corner a lot better than the Red Bull and makes an impression. But coming out of the turn 13, he's not getting close enough to the track.
Slow through these corners now with no grip. They have to wait so long before they can pick the throttle up.
And out in front, Lewis Hamilton extending his advantage. Lap 13 of 19 as Hamilton powers on out in front and bidding to win his first race for the Scuderia. Ferrari have never won a sprint race before, and Lewis Hamilton, at his first attempt for the Scuderia, might just end that streak. He's not got long to go, but I'm sure even he's feeling the tension out in front as Verstappen feeling the pressure from Piastri. George Russell has been forgotten about by the top three, currently running in a solid fourth. Leclerc running in fifth. Tsunoda holding off Antonelli for sixth in a Racing Bulls. It looks like a really handy car with Tsunoda at the wheel today. Stroll hanging on for a point at the moment after a sixth in Australia, and Lando Norris not getting close enough to make an impression there. And Stroll was in DRS range now of Kimi Antonelli.
Piastri in DRS all the way down the back straight. Will he have a bit of a lunge? Get too far away, he'll get another dose of DRS down the pit straight as well, but he's hunting the Red Bull down.
I think that's as close as Piastri's got into that hairpin, and we've seen him down the main straight as the flags wave for Lewis Hamilton. Starts lap 14 in the lead. Here comes Piastri and Verstappen. Verstappen's going to try and force him the long way round. I think Piastri saw that coming. This is defensive mode for the world champion Max Verstappen under all sorts of pressure going into that first corner.
Yeah. He sort of moved in, didn't he? Moved into the zone down the back straight, but Max saw it coming in his zone, closed him off, moved. It wasn't a late move, it was a fair move by Max.
Well, I'm sure Oscar's struggling in that turbulent wake as well. Three tenths he's lost in that first part of the lap, and I wonder if he was just too close to the Red Bull, disturbed by the turbulent air. We saw him even coming out of turn 4, he was squirreling around a little bit. And he looks to fight another day as we watch Isaac Hadger as well, getting closer to Pierre Gasly. Trying to keep an eye on what's happening with Lando Norris. He's gaining a bit on Lance Stroll. He might yet be able to take the point there, but Stroll with the DRS behind Antonelli is keeping him keen.
And this fight is giving Lewis Hamilton some breathing space to check out his tyres and look after his tyres a little bit better. And again then Piastri with DRS, he'll get DRS down the pit straight again. Will he get close enough to be able, and he's gone a little bit wide in 214 hairpin. That's put him a few tens of metres back, and that'll take away his run down to the first corner.
In Australia, in the closing stages, Verstappen was hunting down a McLaren, and here in the closing stages of the sprint, the McLaren is hunting down Verstappen, and this time it's Oscar Piastri as he takes a little wider line going through that first corner. Maybe that is the way to avoid being hit by any turbulence coming off the back of the Red Bull. Hadja trying to make an impression on Gasly, can't quite get past there, and Piastri this time around a lot closer to Verstappen as they come to the hairpin at turn 6.
And Sainz on fresh tyres is 2 seconds a lap faster than the leading trio. Shows you how much their tyres are hurting, but of course a pit stop makes it would be crazy for them out front. They've just got to tolerate it and somehow get it to the line.
And that's the beauty of the sprint, isn't it? And especially in a place like Shanghai, which we know is a bit of a tyre shredder. And as I say that, Piastri slides very wide out of turn 10. They've got to hang on and show all their driving skills, and they're driving superbly and giving us brilliant entertainment. Don't know how this is going to go, the battle for second place. Out in front, Hamilton now 2.5 seconds clear in the Ferrari.
Piastri ever closer then, going on to the back straight. Now he'll get the rear wing open. This is his big chance.
Here he comes, Oscar Piastri on Max Verstappen. Both of them suffering with their tyres. Verstappen probably suffering a bit more. Piastri on the inside takes that second place from the reigning world champion. McLaren move up a place and Verstappen drops down to third.
Now Piastri's got a chance to get after the Ferrari. He's got some nice clear air in front of him. But of course, if your front tyres are hurting, it's not just in the corners, it's in the braking zones as well. But you can't brake super late with front tyres that are shot.
I was going to say, Verstappen coming back a bit at Piastri there, but he can't make the move. Meanwhile, Norris is as close to Lance Stroll as he has been ever since he got stuck behind the Aston Martin in the battle for the one remaining precious point for 8th place. And we can see once again how Piastri sorted this move out, knew where he was going, made his mind up early. Verstappen couldn't defend.
Max is super fair there. You know, sometimes we talk about his tactics, but he was almost generous, I would say. But he knew he didn't have any tools to really fight going into that hairpin. So don't waste time, don't risk contact, just thinking of the championship.
Might get another move into that hairpin shortly, because Kimi Antonelli has got a lot closer here to Yuki Tsunoda. I think Antonelli's front left tyre looks a little bit angry as well.
Even clear air though, Hamilton 6 tenths faster than Piastri in the middle sector of the lap. Lewis has got this one under control.
He knows a thing or two about managing tyres, does Lewis Hamilton. He's done it a few times on his way, Hamilton, to those 105 wins that he's picked up in his Formula One Grand Prix career. But what a win this will be for him today, to bounce back after Melbourne in spectacular style, and he's got just a few more laps to try it. As we now look at the man who replaced him at Mercedes, Kimi Antonelli, chasing after Yuki Tsunoda into the hairpin, too far back. Stroll holds off comfortably Lando Norris, and Norris is going to fight him right to the end. George Russell is starting to gain a bit on Max Verstappen. He's taking 1.6 seconds out of Verstappen's advantage on the previous lap.
Hamilton's lead now, as you can see, over 4 seconds on Piastri. Piastri's tyres are shot through, but he looks like he's got enough speed to keep Verstappen at bay.
Yeah, because Verstappen is really struggling, as is Yuki Tsunoda. And he's got Kimi Antonelli right behind him as we race to the checkered flag here. And we could still get a few swap arounds in terms of the order. Charles Leclerc is keeping tabs, by the way, with George Russell. He's taken 4 tenths out of Russell on the first sector of this latest lap.
It's a bit like last week, we barely mentioned George Russell. He was sort of just out of the picture, wasn't he, all through the Grand Prix.
So, Hamilton from Piastri, from Verstappen, Russell and Leclerc, the top 5, and still Leclerc gaining on George Russell, still Russell gaining on Max Verstappen as we look at Pierre Gasly and Ollie Behrman. Gasly dancing around the outside of the hatch in the first couple of corners. He took a wider line and carried more speed with it. There's Hamilton checking out in front. Piastri, a decent gap between himself and Verstappen. Verstappen has got Leclerc very much for company. The Mercedes struggling a touch to the Ferrari speed.
I wonder what Leclerc is thinking. He can see up ahead, the leader, his teammate, rest of the team pulling away.
He's thinking, I wish I was out there with it. But qualifying yesterday, sorted out the pole position for Lewis Hamilton, only fourth for Leclerc. He's dropped back after being overtaken by Russell in the early stages. Ted, to you.
The tension, you can feel the tension on the Ferrari pit wall, and just looking at Fred Vasseur, hunched over his desk, glued to the screen, crossing, "What's Italian for tyre whisperer?" It's clear that Lewis has taken that skill with him from Mercedes to Ferrari. This is what he came to Ferrari for, to win. All right, you can say it's only a sprint race, but what a performance by Lewis Hamilton. And as you say, he's closing out this the sprint race now, Chris.
And what's Italian for validation, because there are a lot of people who said that Lewis would last less than a year at Ferrari, and it was a terrible mistake.
Lando Norris, after making a mistake in the early stages, gets a place back and moves into the points. And as you said, Martin, every point is precious this season in what should be a really, really tight battle. So Norris now up to 8th, and you can see how Stroll is struggling on his tyres as he tries to get away. Leclerc still keeping George Russell very, very keen indeed. 6 seconds the gap out in front. Hamilton's into the hairpin, and well, as he goes to the hairpin, his teammate barely in the DRS zone. Charles Leclerc down in 5th place. And Hamilton rounding the final corner now to start his final lap of this sprint race, comfortably out in the lead.
They've added 75 litres to the DRS zone, but it's not exactly transforming it down there either, is it? Surprisingly.
No, they could maybe add another 75 to give us a bit more overtakes. Although they had 24 overtakes that were non-DRS assisted in the Grand Prix last year, the highest of any track in 2024. With DRS, Leclerc closes up to George Russell. Into turn 2 we go, and there's barely a front wing's length between the two cars, and Russell's in real trouble.
That's drivable. I cannot turn the car off.
That might be a bit of an old message, because it looks pretty drivable now. As into the hairpin we go, wheel to wheel. Leclerc has to just back off a little bit. Russell manages to stay in front.
10-13 is a long right-hander onto the back straight. So obviously when tucked up underneath the Mercedes, the car's just skating off the road, front sliding across the road.
Brilliant battle between the Mercedes and the Ferrari. See how Leclerc trying to get out of that slow corner at turn 10 has just dropped back a little bit.
We'll watch it now and see what happens when we go into this final turn. And see if he tried to take a bit of curve. Oh yeah, look how much time he's lost. He tried to take a bit of curve to pull the car in, but it didn't work.
He is struggling as he enters the back straight. His teammate is ready to celebrate victory as he exits the back straight. Lewis Hamilton moved teams over the winter, arrived at Ferrari in style, and has hit the ground running in Shanghai to win the sprint in style in scarlet red. Lewis Hamilton wins for Ferrari for the first time, and that very much suits you, sir. In second place, Oscar Piastri, decent drive from him. Max Verstappen couldn't fend off the McLaren, finishes third. It is George Russell holding off Charles Leclerc for fifth. Yuki Tsunoda still holding off the challenge of Kimi Antonelli to finish sixth. Antonelli seventh, and Lando Norris takes a point to finish eighth, just ahead of Lance Stroll. And the new era for Lewis Hamilton at the second race of asking is off and running. He's a winner in the scarlet red. That's Jack Doohan, who's made contact down at turn 13 on the last lap. We'll see a replay of that, but that's not the way Jack Doohan would have wanted to end his first sprint race.
Probably glad he left on the track now, because there's nobody behind him. So Doohan over the line, and either somebody he was overtaking or somebody was overtaking him.
Late lunge on Gabriel Bortoleto.
And he just locked his, as he had full lock on, the front axle lock, trying to do him.
What's the hassle of Esteban Ocon? I think he got a bit spooked by that, and then it's all unraveled. There you go, Martin. He's a winner again, and in a sprint race for the first time, Lewis Hamilton takes the victory.
It's a P1, baby.
Mean a huge amount.
Great job, guys. Woo. Yes. Good job, mate. Well done, mate.
Good job, Lewis. Well managed. Congrats.
It was masterclass for tyres management.
Yeah, bodes well for the Grand Prix, doesn't it? Although, of course, they're doing the hard tyres in hard work, like the white mark hard tyres, but I'm not sure with this new track surface and the speeds they're carrying, and then throw in, nearly 3 times as much fuel. That's it's going to and the
Spot on. Good job, mate. VP.
Good results. I think there's some good learnings to tomorrow, so thanks everyone, thanks for the car.
Good horizontal offset, that will pay great dividends to his Formula 1 career. So, that is, now they've got some time to have a reset before, this is the great thing about sprint weekends, isn't it? Now they've got to think about qualifying. They're out of Parc Fermé, obviously, all a big reset, go for quali and start again now.
Lewis Hamilton into the winner's position. For the first time, car number 44 in the scarlet red, taking victory. Celebrating and have all the emotions that accompany that. We'll have to think about qualifying for the Grand Prix. We've already had 6 Grand Prix poles at this Shanghai circuit in the past. Listen, crescendo of noise for Lewis Hamilton. As he stands in the cockpit of his Ferrari, now a winner. Might not be a Grand Prix, but you never forget your first, and this will mean a huge amount. After that disappointment of Melbourne as well, to come back, car set up properly, and to show the Scuderia why they spent so much money on it.
Yeah, that was, as I said, a masterclass. Got it off the line. And that was really almost where that race was won, actually was in qualifying yesterday. So you've got that position. You're the one throwing out the hot, turbulent air towards the rivals on a day when tyres are beyond the limit.
Oscar Piastri, master of consistency as per usual. That's his 3rd consecutive top 3 finish in the sprint format. So more points today than he did in the Australian Grand Prix. Look at those speeds. Anthony Hamilton right in the thick of it. Racing dad. And he has been for many years now. And if they can emulate that in the Grand Prix tomorrow, well, there really will be some limbs down in Parc Fermé and some scenes there. Max Verstappen, tyres just went on the Red Bull. Nothing he could do to fend off Piastri. And it was just managing his tyres to the end to keep Russell and Leclerc at bay. Leclerc was fighting back to try and re-overtake George Russell, and he got past him in the early stages, but to no avail.
Yeah, Leclerc ended up a dozen seconds behind Hamilton in the 19-lap race. He was scolded by that.
Carlos Sainz, due to the suffer at the hairpin with Bortoleto and Hulkenberg and Dillon, managed to pick up 17th. You don't get any points for that, but 17th with a pit stop.
Well, they were all pointing in the wrong direction, weren't they? They're the ones he passed said one, but anyway, it's giving them some information for tomorrow, and they clearly didn't need those tyres at all.
He's experienced so much in his years in Formula 1, Lewis Hamilton. This is something of a novelty, winning for Ferrari. And still loving every single moment. As you say, qualifying in a race to come this weekend is certainly not done. Liam Lawson, by the way, finished 14th in the other Red Bull, just behind Isaac Hadja. Jacques Villeneuve, former world champion, has the mic in his hand. Max Verstappen.
Well, Max Verstappen, 3rd place. So obviously you're happy when you win, but you've had a hard car to drive all weekend. At first it looked like you could bring the battle to Toulouse and have to back off. Ultimately, good points for the championship. Are you satisfied with that?
I mean, if you look at it like that, I think it is positive. Of course, I tried to give it a go because I also had Oscar behind me pushing, just trying to keep in that DRS. That helps a lot on the back straight. But unfortunately, I think the last
eight laps, I would say. We just didn't have the pace to the others, so I was just trying to survive out there. So I definitely take that P3. Even the cars behind were catching up quite a lot, so it was tough out there to manage the tires somehow. But it's okay. We'll try to do better.
Well, like you said, you had to survive for the second half of the race. Does that give you good info on what to do on the car for qualifying in the race tomorrow?
We'll try to make it better. You know, we'll look into the data, see what we can improve a bit on the car. But I think in general we just lack a bit of overall pace. And then of course actually you have to push a bit harder. You kill your tires a bit more. So that makes it very difficult.
Well, good job today.
Thank you.
Well, I'll start you actually. Second place finish. Well, you didn't get the points you were wanting in Melbourne, but today you had pace, the car was quick, and out of the whole field, you actually managed to salvage your tires so you could actually be aggressive, overtake, get an extra position. Does that feel good?
Yeah, I think it was a really productive sprint, obviously. Finishing second always a great result, and yeah, I think I really learned a lot in that one, and I think, you know, as much as the result is nice, I think the way I got the result, like you said, is an encouraging thing. So yeah, we didn't quite have enough pace for Lewis out front, but no, I think we've got some good ideas for this afternoon and tomorrow, and see if we can go one spot better.
Well, seeing your race pace today in traffic, you're confident for the race tomorrow?
Yes, hopefully we don't have as much traffic though, that's the plan. So we'll see what we can do this afternoon to start a bit higher and go from there. But yeah, I think we've got good pace in the car. We've really got a lot of competitions this weekend. The Ferraris look pretty rapid, so we've got to be on our best form.
Excellent, great job.
Thank you.
Lewis, amazing. Second race in your... Yeah, that's great. Second race in your new team, and at Ferrari, and already a win. I mean, after Melbourne, which was a tough weekend, to come here and destroy your position, how does that feel?
Oh, I mean, today, I woke up feeling great today. You know, the weather's beautiful here in Shanghai, so, and we know we have this amazing crowd. But, yeah, the first race was difficult, and obviously I think I really do feel a lot of people underestimated the steep climb it is to get into a new team, to become acclimatized within the team, understanding and communication, all sorts of things. And the amount of critics and people I've heard yapping along the way, just clearly not understanding, maybe because they never had the experience or just unaware. And so it felt great to come here and feel more comfortable in the car, because in Melbourne I really didn't feel comfortable in the car. From lap one here this weekend, really feeling on it. We've done a great job with the engineers, done a great job, mechanics have done a great job to really fine-tune the car, and it felt great today. I got a good start, and then it was really it's so much grip on this new tarmac. It's really hard to look after these tires, but I think everyone was struggling the same.
Well, you arrived here, and we could tell that you had the winning mindset. I mean, you were emotional after qualifying. That's very rare to see you that emotional. Aggressive at the start, to stay in the lead, controlled it when Max came back, just disappeared in the distance. That's looking good for the field. This is the Lewis we like seeing, but remember, you have a lot of Italian fans now. You're an adopted Italian, and you know how much pressure that brings. What do you think will be the reaction now back in your new home?
I don't know. I mean, I don't feel the pressure. I'm sure. I know it's supposed to. I know the fans. I know the team wants to win, and I know it means everything to them. But I said the other day, like, Rome wasn't built in one day. One step at a time. We're not going to get ahead of ourselves. We cannot. We've got to continue to push. We've got to be diligent and just remain focused, stay calm. Most importantly, stay calm, because these moments get us all excited. But we'll be back at our desks after this and focused on qualifying this afternoon. And you know, it's a long, long way. So it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? So we just got to take our time.
Well, it was a great race, and it was great to see the winner.
Thanks so much. Take care.